I gotta say, I'm feeling pretty validated right now. We got some big news to talk about Natlan. Remember that funeral trailer with the Harbingers where they foreshadow Irminsul burning and it's Columbina and Dottore having a conversation? It was right in front of us this whole time. We might be finally getting to see that unfold, and those two specific Harbingers having a conversation at that moment turns out to not be a coincidence. After all, no disrespect to the Pyro Archon, but holy crap, you're screwed. The Pyro Archon is not only going to have to deal with 3 Harbingers, but the top 3. She drew the short straw for sure. And the burning of Irminsul, that foreshadowed in that Fatui funeral trailer right before Sumeru. We've been wondering what's the deal with that? Well, apparently it's been leaked that not only is that going to actually happen sooner than later, but we're actually getting the top 3 Harbingers in Natlan. I've actually seen this from multiple sources, but the one I'm referring to is an extremely reliable one that's predicted a lot of things, like Navia's kit, pretty much all the Fontaine characters before they came out. Scaramouche being Animo long before we knew he was going to be the Wanderer. The fact that they knew Chivalrous and Inazuma characters like Chiori would be dropping in 4.3 for that story quest, that event. Arlecchino being out in 4.5 with her whole kit. Like, the list goes on and on. But always you gotta take leaks with a grain of salt. Because we know a couple months ago, Columbina was leaked to be part of the Natlan quest. We knew that already. That's information that's already been out there. Capitano already confirmed in-game to be in Natlan through Nouvellette, the end of 4.2. What this new leak actually does is just reinforce Columbina while also including Dottore, which I've been calling since the beginning. I've been saying this, I have a bunch of videos talking about this. And the reason is, Natlan is not only the theme of resurrection surrounding it, but it's the last Gnosis. The last Gnosis they have to get. That is their number one mission. That's the number one thing that they're doing. Why they're in every region, why they have settlements, base camps, strongholds. The entirety of what they're doing is trying to get these Gnosis pieces, right? These chess pieces. And this is the last one they need. But that's not all. We know now it's the remains of the third Descender. There have been many theories on the third Descender, which is part of the fun, trying to speculate who that is, how that ties to the Fatui in the greater picture here, but doesn't matter. It's the remains of the third Descender regardless, and the Fatui want the remains of the third Descender. We can assume that the Fatui, at least the top ranking ones, know the bigger picture. I'm sure they're collecting these Gnosis knowing what they are. And if you take these two things into consideration, well, if you're gathering the last Gnosis that you need in the nation that themes around resurrection, well, it's a safe assumption that they're probably going to try to resurrect that third Descender. For the exact reason we don't know, but probably to help them in their greater picture.
Let every worthy sacrifice be carved in ice. With this nation endure for all time. In the name of Her Majesty the Tsaritsa, we will seize authority from the gods.
Like the Jester says. And why I've been predicting Dottore to be there is because, well, he's already been introduced in the game. He is literally the perfect candidate to make this happen. The 3 top-ranking guys in your most important quest yet just makes sense to me. The Nation of War, it's going to be a chaotic story quest, and we're really getting down to the nitty-gritty now with Genshin's main story. Natlan's the final place before Shesnaya, the actual home of the Harbingers and the Fatui. So it makes sense to send your 3 biggest guns to Natlan, Dottore being one of them, and a key piece here in actually accomplishing this resurrection. And if you want to take the high road here and even say, well, maybe the resurrection has nothing to do with the third Descender. Maybe that's to do with the Pyro Archon or the Dragon Sovereign of Pyro. I mean, that seems less likely. I still think it makes sense to bring your top 3 Harbingers to get the last Gnosis though. But I don't think Dottore was experimenting with making a man-made god like Scaramouche, and all of his research, all of his intelligence amalgamates to this point. This is his purpose, to be in the Harbingers. And Columbina, I think, is going to play a key role in this as well. I think they're going to collab on this. I think they represent 2 great aspects of what this resurrection of a Descender will mean. Columbina having a much more ominous and mysterious origin. We don't really know who she is, where she's from, or what she's capable of, but we know that she's not to be trifled with. and Dottore sort of represents the science behind it. He's one of, if not the smartest characters in all of Teyvat. And obviously that leak about Irminsul and the burning of Irminsul actually being a factor coming to Natlan is really important detail as well. Not only do I think Irminsul represents oppression, it's a data system for Teyvat, and it's actually threatening towards the citizens. It's being misused. Obviously we've heard time and time again about the false sky of Teyvat, the lie, Celestia being painted as the villain, and Irminsul being misused. It's been hinted at over and over again. It can be corrupted, and it can change the memory and the perception of history in Teyvat. I don't think Irminsul is inherently evil as its own entity or thing, but I think if it's misused or in the wrong hands, probably within Celestia or whoever's running Teyvat, the greater power here, the oppression that the Fatui are trying to break, burning Irminsul obviously makes sense for their overarching mission, but Irminsul might actually be a hindrance when resurrecting a Descender as well with the Gnosis. Perhaps that is the whole point, and another factor is why they're burning it. It's actually interesting now looking back at that trailer where it foreshadows Dottore burning this, and Columbina the one actually talking to him, poking fun at his segments.
I must say, you're looking very young today, Doctor.
You know very well that I do not take that as a compliment.
So, where's the segment in the prime of his life, then?
He's busy with a little experiment in blasphemy.
Interesting that it's those two having a conversation, and those are going to be the extra Harbingers along with the captain in Natlan, where this sequence is leaked now to actually unfold. Just an interesting little detail. And the captain is there simply to win the tournament and get the Gnosis. He's literally going to bully everyone he sees. Again, I've talked about this in so many videos, breaking down Natlan piece by piece, but overall there's a big tournament war arc going on here, and the captain's meant to win this by any means necessary. The Traveler's going to be mixed into this somehow, and Columbina and Dottore are going to be doing something important behind the scenes, like the Fatui are always doing, to ensure that this happens no matter what, and that the final Gnosis piece is obtained at any cost. Again, I've made videos dissecting Columbina, how she fits into Natlan multiple times. The captain, I've talked a lot about him in Natlan, how he's going to fit into all this, and I've also talked about Dottore as well in great detail long before these leaks have ever been out, so I don't really want to repeat all of that stuff in this video, but the bottom line is, the Fatui are at the finish line. Piero and the Tsaritsa have assembled the Harbingers in the Fatui organization from the ground up ever since the Cataclysm for 500 years, and this is the finish line. Natlan, the last Gnosis, the nation themed around resurrection. So despite there being new leaks reinforcing what I already thought, all leaks aside, it just makes sense, don't you agree? This is the end and finish line of Phase 1 for the Harbingers. What you've spent the last 500 years building towards. You're at the finish line. It's time to empty the chamber. If I was Piero or the Tsaritsa, I would also send my 3 biggest guns for this mission, while having the rest of the Harbingers doing what they're doing, important things in other nations or whatever, setting this all up. But this is the time to empty your clip. It's the end of the road for Phase 1. In Phase 2 in Shesnaya, and my prediction will be what happens next when this third Descender, or whatever the resurrection factor is, happens. Because if they're not resurrecting the third Descender in Natlan, obviously they have to do something with these remains, these Gnosis. So Shesnaya will probably be either Phase 2 with the third Descender already resurrected, or whatever happens in Phase 2 with once they gather all these pieces. What it exactly means.
Also, where in the is Sandrone?
She's clearly from Fontaine. That's an undeniable fact. It has to be. Just look at her. So I don't know when they're planning on dropping her. Or did she forget she's in this story too? And another thing, Arlecchino will actually be releasing soon, and we'll get some voice lines with her and little snippets of information about the other Harbingers through her voice line. So I'm really excited for that. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Are you excited for Natlan? I think it's going to be a banger of a story quest. Hoyoverse has so much potential to make this into one of the best updates they've ever had for Genshin story-wise. So I really hope they don't fumble this. They have a lot of cool things they can do with these top 3 Harbingers. I'm really excited to see how they go about it, but let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like and subscribe, help grow the channel. I really do appreciate you all watching this far, and as always, we will see you all in the next one. Later.